Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 6 of the Solvator podcast. It's a great pleasure to be sitting down with someone that at one point went to St. John's Beaumont, which is a school I went to, Arun Silva. Aaron, you've recently had your graduation ceremony because obviously COVID hit, and when you were actually graduating, we unfortunately couldn't have a ceremony. How does it feel to finally finally have your masters and be out in the professional world as a master's student?
Well, I can definitely say it feels great to be out finally in the professional world, having that weight lifted off your shoulders after studying for so long. It's amazing. I mean, to be honest with you, Linus, I never planned to ever take a master's. I was planning to just do a bachelor's and be done with it and get out into the world of work. But the pandemic came along and kind of, stopped all of that. So it kind of helped kind of coerce me into doing a master's. And eventually, a few years later, that was finished.
Would you consider yourself, because obviously when the pandemic hit, quite a few of us, especially I was in my first year at uni at the time, having the time of my life, and suddenly everything stops. Everything stops still. We're all shutting doors. And for me, being a people person, I could tell you right now, I was pouring at the fucking walls. And I know a lot of people were as well. What was it like for you, basically, kind of 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks into lockdown, realizing that was going to be a reality for a while? Did that kind of knock your confidence in the way that you were very unsure about the future? How did you deal with that?
I mean, in a way, it was a very uncertain time. In fact, I remember that day very clearly, actually, when the pandemic struck, because, in fact, actually, to tell the actual truth, the pandemic hit just in the middle of my master's. So I kind of actually was thinking about the world of work and applying at the end of my bachelor's in 2019, but then went into the master's. But I recall immediately coming back from a trip from Brussels with Kent Business School, where I studied my master's. And immediately, I think a day or two later, the COVID cases started spreading and COVID became a thing, and the university campus shut down. And I know that from a confidence point of view, I wasn't very confident. So I lost quite a bit of confidence, in fact, thinking that, oh gosh, the job market is going to dry up, and how are we all going to find placements, because our course had a placement month or so we had to find placements, and the university was helping. But yeah, that really kind of threw our confidence, like for our cohort at least, where we were struggling to find a placement. Thankfully I had a university job which I was carrying on remotely, but yeah, it did throw a lot of confidence out the window.
I know as well. In your background, I do want to get back to go, but in your background it says Silva Media.
Yes.
That's your own company, I'm assuming, given it's got your name in it. What was it like for you, going out? It says that you've been doing that for about 8 years now, so you must have been doing that, God, maybe even at school.
Yes.
And
so
running that alongside everything else you're doing, that takes a great deal of gut. So what was that decision making process to decide to make that jump?
I mean, to be honest, really, it was kind of a combination of my parents and, well, some teachers at school, because I'm not going to lie, I was never the studious academic type who would be able to, read textbooks and absorb everything, immediately, or be able to pick up a novel and read it through and then finish it in a few days or a week or so. I was always quite slow at that. So it kind of started off the back of when my English teacher identified that I wasn't really quick at reading, and there was something like stopping me from, working at the speed other people would. So they encouraged me to start up my own little blogging site at school, secondary school. And I started this as just a hobby, a blog, you know, to type and keep records of what was happening and to develop my English throughout school. And
Mm.
then from that point on, I had built that website, and I had built some websites for family, that the word spread through family and friends. And I did get my first paid client, I think, just after finishing school, secondary school,
Wow.
which was in digital media. So it kind of started off with that first paying client, which was to record a concert in London and edit videos for a non-profit. And from there, it snowballed into working at university and starting in hospitality, but then going into their marketing side of things, because they worked out I had a knack for digital media, and snowballed from there to the point where different parts of the university found out that I was doing this. And I ended up working about 7 part-time contracts whilst I was at uni.
Yeah.
Because people were like, you know, we want to help you with your business and, you know, develop your skills. So that built a lot of confidence, referring back to that,
Yeah.
in terms of having my own little venture and business alongside everything.
Yeah, I think your confidence as well in everything we do, and
Mm.
this I do preach a great deal. You know, I'm personally, I'm 21 years old. I've been on this earth for like no time compared to some people. But one thing I always know from experience is my confidence does not come from simply sitting down and writing an essay, right?
Mm.
In fact, the law itself and my degree itself actually did not do very much for my confidence. My confidence came from doing stuff that was actually outside my remit, maybe
Mm.
outside my. When I started my first podcast, you know, it was, I had no idea about anything. I called a mate and I said, I've got this crazy stupid idea, and he went. It was the middle of the pandemic, and he went, "That's not stupid. Let's do it." I went, "Yeah, all right." Within 3 days, I had a team of 10 people, and we were ready for our first guest. It's like sometimes you just got to start small and keep going, and you never know what happens along the way. And I think that's a jump that my generation in particular they don't seem to be taking nowadays.
Yeah,
I don't know what you think about that. It might be maybe because they're not as risk averse as they probably should be. Maybe a bit scared and skeptical of what failure means as well. Failure means you're going to learn, in my opinion. But yeah,
absolutely.
it was interesting. And you also had you branched into like the DJ and YouTube side of things as well.
Yeah.
Bit about
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, that actually came from just, you know, again back at school, I thought, you know what the hell, I would like to dabble in other areas. So I thought, you know what, I'll start up my YouTube channel. And I started, like, from the YouTube side, vlogging rowing regattas that we used to go on at school, and it was good fun. And I had a few friends who would occasionally steal the camera and, you know, film stuff, and the rowing team got onto it quite nicely. And yeah, it was one of those things that started like that. And then again, I started picking up the camera in family holidays when we used to go back home to Sri Lanka, and it became kind of a habit to the point where even at university, when I started, I said, you know what, I'm going to try and vlog just the first week, daily vlog, and see how it goes. And that turned into a 4-year long vlog spree, if you like, because, you know, I thought not only was it a nice way to document memories and to have my friends at university be part of my life, and to be able to look back into it 10 years on and see, oh, we did that day and that. Uh, but also for new starters at university, especially the University of Kent, for them to have a chance to see what it's like at the university and what it's
Mm.
like, and to reassure them that university is nothing to be scared of, and they should go for it and try, you know, try things. So
Yeah, I think there are quite a few people that, you know, they tend to be a bit skeptical about
mm,
university. I mean, for me, I was never, I boarded later in my life, so I was never like scared at all. But I know that some people, for them, it was like that massive step of like, some of them had not even had a sip of alcohol before in their lives, and they get to university and everything's on tap, and they want to take that step, but they haven't got the confidence to just go, I'm here now. Let's give this a go. Let's give that a go. And I've seen them develop it later, a lot later, and some of that was due to the pandemic. They were like, I've been locked in here for so long. When they left, they were like, I'm not going to let any other day go to waste, because I've realized that I'm not going to take anything for granted anymore. And that was quite an interesting thing. So yeah, you've done so much, and I just find it amazing. For me, the confidence that you have is the confidence that you can keep all this up to some extent whilst doing a degree. People often tell me, I'm nuts for some of the things I've done. Why I had a very serious third year going on, but I disagree. How was it for you? Doing all this whilst keeping a degree up?
Well, it was a good challenge, actually. I mean, to be honest, I constantly had my lecturers saying, Aaron, there's a small thing called a degree that you need to focus on. And I was like, oh, it's fine. Don't worry. I'll be fine. And it was quite a balancing act in terms of, trying to balance the social from the work, from, the actual study and doing assignments. But I found that the more you do, the better you get with time management. You kind of learn to be confident in yourself that you are going to do that assignment in the weekend, say on a Saturday morning. You're going to wake up, get it done, and then have the week to go out, do events, support, say, a society, or get involved with student groups within your department. And to some extent, it did help really boost my confidence in terms of time management, which helped later on in the world of work, very much so. But I often got also comments asking me kind of, how do you have enough hours in the day to do everything you do? And it's like down to that time management and trusting yourself to say, okay, I'm going to start this now, or go to this place now, and then leave to go here at this time, leaving X amount of time to get to that place. So it's it was very much a balancing act, but it was good fun and a good challenge.
Yeah, I know. I got the same thing a couple of times. I remember I had, because I tend to just talk. I talk for England, but I was just telling, someone was asking me, what else do you do apart from uni? And I started at the time I was writing a book. I was getting because it was COVID, I was getting a whole album worth of music ready to go and perform on stage. I was doing this, that, and the other. And I just went on this tirade, and they just were like this the whole time. And I was like, what is it? And they were like, well, how do you find the time? And some of it is organization, but there is a sad truth to it as well. Is a lot of sacrifice that goes on.
Yeah.
A great deal. You've got, I think there's this theory where, you've got hob, and there's 4 burners on the hob. You got your health, you got your family, you got your career, and you got your friends, or your relationship, right? Or whatever. I was turning like pretty much 3 hobs, 3 hobs off, like 2, sometimes 2 hobs off to get done what I need to get done. But I had that in the back of my head that I'm 20 years old. It's now.
Yeah.
I think there's this narrative playing out, and it's starting to come to light that people seem to think that earning money, taking risks, or starting up something of your own is the job of a 35-year-old, a 40-year-old. But I think you and I would perhaps disagree with that sentiment, and think quite the opposite, that the younger you start, the better. I just want to get your opinions on that.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with that statement, because I mean, it's never too early to start something. Like even like a little hobby, you could start it off, say back at school, say like my silver media, I started that at school, and it was just a hobby, a thing that I kept ticking along in the background. And, just even if it's just an hour a week or something, doing a blog post or creating some media to put on there, it can tick along to the point where, it becomes a business. So, I mean, you can start as early as you want, and I feel starting early is better, as I've said, because you can get more done and you can achieve more, and then later on in life you can kind of take a little bit of a back seat in terms of not be so focused on it, but you have time to do other things whilst maybe it's made money, or maybe it's kind of, you've got a team. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's established, so you don't have to then spend later on in your life putting more time into it.
Yeah, and I think as well, when you're younger, you do have more in the tank.
Yeah,
You have a lot more to give.
yeah.
You know, a Thursday for me at uni would be waking up at 6, doing law work, getting in for a lecture at 9, then coming back in the evening, maybe doing writing a bit of my book until 9 at night, then going out, getting absolutely smashed, coming in at 4 in the morning and waking up again at 7 just to get into uni. It's like you do have more in the tank when you're younger. Whereas maybe when you're older, as you get more responsibilities, it's harder to do those things. So I think the narrative that, yes, we should be starting younger, I think I'm totally in agreement with that. I just want to take you back to your school days.
Yeah.
So obviously I let the audience know, I did at one point go to school without you were older than me. I don't remember much. I remember you were good at music. I think that's about it. But your confidence in your personal life and how it's now translated to your career, was that always there, or was that something you had to develop?
It was something actually that I had to develop. In fact, taking it back, as you said, back to the school days when we were at St. John's Beaumont, actually. I was this really shy kid, didn't really speak to new people or people I didn't know. I'd stick to, the core group of my friends in my year, and maybe the house groups, as it were, which we had. Basically, I think a big deal of confidence building was when our music teacher, actually head of music at the time, I won't mention his name because I don't know whether he wants to be named or not, but he actually thought it would be a good thing for me to start studying, or preparing rather, for a music scholarship to the secondary school that I went to. And he actually started giving me training, and in terms of singing lessons, my singing teacher also really stepped up the game and made me actually kind of step outside of my comfort zone, in fact, by making me sing at like different events such as mass that we had at the school. Or
definitely remember you doing a solo in choir a couple times. 100%.
Absolutely. So yeah, all of that really did help build my confidence to the point where I, towards getting into secondary school, I felt that I could actually stand up and sing without being too nervous. Whereas when I was at St. John's, I was like really nervous to stand up and sing. It was like I had to prepare myself that morning for to sing in the afternoon. So
well, I think stage confidence is a very important thing, no matter where you're going. I think as we mentioned, the choir, obviously I was a chorister up until the age of 16, and then my voice went. So I started transferring the poetry that I was used to writing to rap songs. I started rapping to my mother's distaste. Then from there, just completely forgot about the singing. I got so used to doing that. And then when I came to uni, I actually decided, what, I want to interweave some singing into my rap songs, and I started singing again. And that was, oh man, that was nerve-wracking, because having not done something for years and then trying to pick it back up again, And I'm even still having to develop it back again, because you've got a different voice. It's not the same voice you had. And I had a performance at a pub, I think it was about a month ago, and one of my mates came up to me and he said, rapping was great, mate. I'm going to be honest though, your singing was shit. And that was a warm-up for a much bigger set at a very big venue. And I was planning on performing that song, and I was left at that crossroads where it was like, do I give it a go in front of a large audience, or do I leave it? And it was literally on the day I flipped a coin and decided to do it in front of the audience, and it went really well. I lucked out. But that was for me a big development, because it was like, sometimes you really do have to take that chance. Were there any times in your life, but either personally or professionally, where you were at a crossroads and you really had to decide to make a leap in a direction, but weren't really sure what direction was the right way to go?
Yes, in fact, actually, thinking back to it, really, it was actually in my professional life, straight out of university. When I finished my master's, I went to work for a company called Aetna International. They're an international healthcare provider, and they're massive in the US, great big company, but they were starting out in the UK fairly recent. But I started there, and then I actually got headhunted by Snapchat when I was there. And so it was like kind of a decision as to whether, because I loved it so much at Aetna International, that I really wanted to stay, despite it obviously being contract work. So it wasn't a permanent role, but they'd extended the contract. So I was like thinking to myself, do I take the leap and go for Snapchat, which is again another contract, or do I wait and look out for another place? And at that point in time, I was really uncertain. And, you know, I talked to my parents, I talked to my friends, I was trying to figure out what to do at that crossroads. And in the end, I obviously decided to go with Snapchat, because it was kind of an amazing thing to obviously have on my CV, but also an experience which, you know, you can take for the rest of your life and carry it forward into other jobs. So that was one of the biggest crossroads I feel I've come to in the past. But even also when I moved on from Snapchat, again, that was that decision where I had,
I guess it's you deciding, do I want to stay where I'm comfortable, or possibly going to the unknown?
Exactly.
And are you confident? Are you confident in the sense that you're all right making the wrong decision for the risk of something?
I always like to think that I'm okay with making the wrong decision and then learning from it, because I always say if I make a wrong decision, I always see it as a learning point, you know, that I've learned that I'm not so good at that, but I want to, you know, I'm good at this, so I should play to my strengths in terms of that. So I do see it as an opportunity to learn if I do. So I kind of, if you get what I mean, I don't see it as wrong, but maybe as a learning point, if you like, to learn where I stand in terms of my skills.
I've got one last question for you, and of course, if you've got any questions for me, feel free to ask after. But it's just, if you didn't embrace the unknown, and if you didn't use your confidence how you have, do you really think you'd be where you are today?
To be honest, I don't think I would have been where I am today. I mean, you know, working for a company that I love and, you know, doing what I love, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for me kind of taking a step outside of my comfort zone and really, you know, going for it and taking a step into a direction which I didn't know where I was going to head, really. So
wow. But before I sign off, have you got any questions for me?
I mean, what I was going to ask, what would your biggest, in terms of your future, what would be the thing that you would be most concerned about in terms of moving on from uni?
Well, I'm very ready. I actually moved out today for anyone listening.
Nice.
I'm actually very ready to move on. My biggest fear is waking up one day in bed and not wanting to get up before everyone else and start doing something. My biggest fear is to wake up one day and just not have motivation.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't have motivation because I always talk about discipline, the difference between discipline and motivation. Discipline is doing something you don't want to do, but you know you probably should do.
Yes.
Motivation is doing something you want to do that's hard, but motivated to do it, right?
Absolutely.
Even when I'm not motivated to get out of bed, I have that in my head of the discipline.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want to lose that because I think that could take me far in my career, and I hope that stays. I hope some people have said, well, whatever you do, don't burn out early. I really hope that doesn't happen. So I'd say that would be my biggest fear for after uni is not continuing the ethos that I've already kind of instilled, and one I think is very important, and one that I'm sure you certainly have as well, doing all the extra things you do. So yeah, I think that's something. And again, confidence is key to that. But anyway, Aaron, thank you very much for coming on. I'll drop the link to your LinkedIn or Instagram, whichever you prefer, in the bio. So if anyone has any questions about your life or how to get to the places you've got, feel free. I'm sure you'll